And for some weird reason, one enemy being aggro doesn't alert others to your presence. In fact, they can get in each other's way.
A store straight sword, they pretty much just one-shot her.
Look at this.
Mauler falsely presents this as being an issue that is unique to Dark Souls 2, even though the exact same also happens in Dark Souls 1.
They can't even come into this room. So like, I literally ran past them and now they're like, Steve, what do we do now? Do we just, do we go back?
Now he makes it seem as if cheesing enemies with doors does not work in every single Soulsborne game. This isn't even the door that's blocking him. It's just a little piece of rubble.
Dark Souls 2 has several enemies without a clue on how to deal with the player if you approach certain enemies in the reverse of the way it was intended.
Mauler showed this encounter in Shrine of Amana, so let us take a look how it would play out if you start attacking them. The enemies close to those that I've attacked were alerted of my presence. But now let us also take a look at several examples of enemies in Dark Souls 1 without a clue of how to deal with the player if you approach them in the reverse of the way it was intended.
It will naturally sacrifice the benefits of engagement with your enemy and you will be able to exploit them.
He acts as if this wasn't the case in DS1 as well. The next pig is even worse, as even if you do not make any sound it magically does get alerted of your presence. How could it have possibly known that I am here? Going through areas backwards of the way it was intended was always a good way to get backstabs in, so I do not understand why he falsely claims that this issue is unique to DS2. To me this looks also like an easy way to exploit an enemy by going through an area backwards. Even this Capra demon gank can be exploited easily by taking on them backwards. Here again we can see the exact same thing he was singling DS2 out for, happening in DS1 as well. The enemies do not know how to handle it if I go through this area backwards and aggroing one of them does not alert the other of my presence. In DS1 you can even quit and reload to reset enemies to deal with them easier from behind. This one does not care that I'm fighting his friends right behind him. You can't tell me that he doesn't hear their screams.
Several levels begin to fall apart when you realize that the developers didn't account for players taking some obvious and extra routes. Throughout the game, there are moments where enemies have no idea how to deal with you, thanks to the fact that there is no preparation for players to approach from any other way than forward.
How is going backwards through Ironhearth Hall in any way an obvious way? No one except him ever had that idea. If he wants to get to the merchant, he can just take the much closer bonfire. Going backwards out of the depths is a much more obvious way, and it also showcases the same issues he complains about. This butcher doesn't even know why he dropped down. These dogs don't even seem to notice me even though I'm just standing a few feet in front of them. This one just watches as I backstab his friend. The first one sees me and aggros, but his friend right next to him doesn't care. Oops, okay, let us try this again. His buddy again does not care that I just killed his friend. How did the one on the right even notice me before the one on the left did? Seems to me like they aren't hostile creatures in a living, breathing world, but just scripted AI following protocol in a video game.
That these aren't hostile creatures in a living, breathing world, that these are just scripted AI following a protocol in a video game.
He doesn't even know why he broke the boards, he just did without knowing that I'm here. This one can clearly see me, but he just watches as I defeat his friends. He just doesn't care, because he's scripted to aggro as soon as I step on the small bridge.
Dark Souls 1 is a stellar example of this problem being solved by showing innovation in terms of multiple approaches. Take Undead Berg on first approach. You have several undead to battle with, and
So I've shown that going backwards through Undead Berg does not even work as well as he claims, but let us take a few more looks at this area. He is watching me fight his friend, but just does not care as I did not enter his aggro range yet. The third one again does not get alerted of my presence, even though he watches me fight.
This would be what Harris is talking about when you zero in one approach and forget other simple possibilities for players.
How did he even get to those ogres from behind? Was this simple approach yet another one of those obvious paths that no one except for him ever took, as there's much closer bonfires available where you do not have to run all the way from Dragon Airy? Seems to me like he did pretty unusual things in order to artificially make DS2 look worse, while falsely claiming that those issues aren't present in every single Souls game. Now for the end, here's a funny one that requires glitches to get to this state.